So the first thing I'm noticing about this is I was showing you guys this, like how this continuous circle works, and I can still see that mark. So I'm just going to get rid of that mark because it's bugging me. And those kind of loose eyebrows, hairs that I was demonstrating, I'll put those back. Let me switch pencils. I like this one better. Right? And so the next thing I'm going to do when I'm observing, and this is going to look weird at first. It's going to look kind of spotty. But the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to observe where I see highlights and where I see shadows and on my face. And I'm not going to really be terribly concerned about blending any of them in at first. It's just about observation at first. So when you when you think about the face as form, right? And there's bones and mostly bones, but there's some muscle under there. You can kind of feel your own face and you can feel your eye socket, like the edge of your eye socket, right? So the reason that's important is because anywhere when you're drawing form, anywhere that sticks out, cheekbones, bridge of the nose, eyebrow bone, I guess I would say, right here, where this sticks out. Anything that sticks out is going to be the first thing to catch light, so that's where you're going to get your highlights. And anything that goes back in space, like, you know, some people say like the circles under their eyes or like right along the bridge of your nose or something like that, that's going back a little bit further, so that's going to catch the shadow. So as I look at this, and like I said, I would just watch for a second and then try to do it yourself. I want you to notice how I'm holding the pencil. I'm holding the pencil on the side because I am making blending marks, but I'm really just looking at where I see on my face, like the shapes that I see that are shadows. I'm not going to worry about blending them in too much yet, but I see that. Then I see on the inside, this part here goes back in space a little bit. So right above the eyelid right here. On this corner of the eye. So it's all these kind of areas that are kind of sunken a little bit more. So the ground that you put down is going to, what I'm attempting to do is make the ground register as a mid-tone, which means it's the middle gray. Right now I'm finding things that are a little bit darker than that mid-tone in those shapes. Then I'm going to switch my pencil and I'm going to use the eraser, because the next part is going to be to identify the highlights. So I see more highlight here, right up next to the eyebrow. It's kind of sticking out. The bridge of the nose catches light. Right above my eyebrow, like my brow bone up here, is catching some light. And then my cheek is protruding right here. So my cheekbone. So when I do this at first, I always say it kind of looks like camouflage, like it's kind of splotchy. It looks splotchy because I'm not worried about blending anything yet. It's all observation, seeing where the highlights and the shadows fall. And then after you get that, it's about blending them into each other. Now, you can use your blending stick for this. I tend to use my pencil first a little bit, not the blending stick as much. But you can also just soften these at some of these edges using this blending stick so that you don't have this like really sharp white shape next to a gray shape next to a dark gray shape. I personally prefer just kind of going back and working this shadow. Either way is totally fine, or a combination of the two is also totally fine. I just don't want this to be as like aggressive looking. So this will take me a long time. Like I'll spend time going back and forth, softening all these edges and making them kind of blend together. And I'll kind of keep looking over here in the mirror, but I've already kind of figured out where they go. So that thinking part is kind of mostly over, and now it's just about making it kind of look good and blending it all together. So why don't you guys give that a try now? If you were watching, go ahead and jump in. Start with highlights or shadows, it doesn't matter, but you're going to use your pencil, then you're going to use your eraser, and then it's just about blending your seam. So give that a try, and then I'll give you a couple minutes, and then I'm going to jump in and talk about glasses. I think I'll take attendance while you guys are doing the shading. Actually get a little bit of a highlight right there. Sometimes I don't catch them all and I kind of go back. Or I go back and I decide to make some darker. Sometimes I use my eraser instead of the blending stick to soften. Just this part just takes time. Now, the biggest thing, you know, I see on my students, and this is really kind of the final step. You have to go and do this at the end when you're doing your portrait, because as you're working, your hand will get on your drawing and kind of smear it and eliminate these. But if you do not have all of these values, meaning you don't have a gray, you don't have a dark gray, you don't have light, then everything ends up looking kind of flat. Uh-oh, I froze.